Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming. Today we witness in Parliament a new low in Premier Bert's disdain for the people of Bermuda. He attempted to ride roughshod over parliamentary procedure and convention. It is to the Speaker's credit that he stopped the Premier from reading his statement, and it was clear from what the Speaker said that the Premier had lied about the content of his speech today. All of Bermuda should be alarmed at this. It is clear that not only did the Premier purposely lie to the Speaker, it is clear he is also intent on putting his foot on the throat of democracy. The Premier has demonstrated to Mr. and Ms. Bermuda that he is too scared to have a full and wholesome debate on his administration's track record. Instead of having an open and public throne speech debate in Parliament, which would allow for a formal reply from the opposition, the Premier tried to hide behind a statement to the House today. The people's elected representatives deserve the opportunity to speak on the government's dismal record. Our Premier, Mr. Bert, has repeatedly shown his true colors, which border on those of a wannabe dictator. His fear of being open to the sunshine of public scrutiny is palpable in everything he does. He attacks the media. He attacks the opposition. He attacks independent authorities. He attacks the so-called establishment when his plans fail. And today he tried to cower behind an overinflated balloon of rhetoric drafted by the sycophantic party hacks paid using the people's money. Strong words, you may say? Absolutely. Mr. Bert relies on sound bites and acts as if everything is fine in Bermuda. It is not, which is why he is unwilling to have an open and proper parliamentary debate about the government's record. The fact is that Premier Bert is unable to find a way to kickstart the economy, having squandered the opportunities created under the OBA. GDP has been sustained largely as a result of projects commenced under the OBA. In particular, the hotel construction in St. George's and the airport. When those construction projects are completed, there is nothing on the horizon. We support fintech efforts because, Bermuda, there's nothing else. There is no plan B. But is fintech dead on arrival? It appears so. The Premier's political capital has been damaged beyond repair after today. The self-styled Bert's brilliance is gone and replaced by Bert, the Premier illusionist, and his smoke and mirror magic show. The main demonstration of the failings of fintech is the empty Victoria Hall building. Bermuda land was allowed to be sold to international non-Bermudian figures. The irony is, the only ones who benefited from the transaction are some of the very types of people that the Premier chastises and blames for his lack of vision and ability. The OBA will present in the coming weeks a reply to the non-throne speech, with or without time being allowed us in Parliament. Whilst we were beaten at the polls, I believe that there is significant buyer's remorse. I hear that every day on the doorstep and on the streets. Policies that the PLP were so critical of are now being seen as the only way forward. Under the OBA, the economy was kick-started, taxes were lower, and Bermudians had more money in their pocket with real opportunities on the horizon. The people of Bermuda are suffering due to the Premier's economic failure. We can do better. Look now, of course, for the talk shows to go into overdrive and frantic press releases drafted by the minister without portfolio to defend the dear leader. Enough is enough. It is time for Bermuda to realize they have been well and truly fooled by the snake oil sales pitches. I call on Premier Bert to respect the electorate and to open his administration up to a proper debate and scrutiny so that the people of Bermuda can judge for themselves about the PLP's atrocious record to date. Thank you for coming. We'll open it up to any questions that you might have.
What did you make of the fact that the Speaker, Dennis Lister, did not intervene as you requested this morning?
Well, I do believe that he took his time to figure out exactly what was going on. He did intervene. I believe his ruling after I was unceremoniously kicked out of the House, I believe that he realized that there was opportunity here to really look at what was going on. And the fact that the Speaker did come back and rule on that the Premier was out of order in his speech says a whole lot. Yes.
My understanding is that my colleague has spoken with the Premier about what transpired this morning.
Certainly.
My understanding is that Mr. Byrd accused you of electioneering and staging getting thrown out of the House of Assembly this morning. I wanted to hear what you had to say.
Well, coming from the magician himself, that's rather interesting. You have a block party going on this weekend, which I'm sure probably will be paid by the taxpayers. If that's not electioneering, I don't know what is. You have a flyer that's going out to the public about the Premier and his wonderful things that he has done as the Premier during a by-election. If that's not electioneering, I don't know what is. We didn't have a copy of his speech until he got up on his feet. And I very quickly had to go through that speech while he was on his feet. And if you'll notice, it took a couple of minutes, but I scanned through it and realized he is delivering a throne speech. So for him to get up and to give Bermuda lipstick on a pig is rather interesting that he would say now that we're electioneering. I had no idea. So once we decided that we were going to object to his presenting of what we had in front of us, it took a life of its own.
So the first time you or any member of your party saw the ministerial statement that was delivered this morning was this morning?
That's correct.
So when he got on his feet, as he was getting on his feet, that was the first time it was being handed out as he got on his feet. Now, what's interesting is the Speaker himself did not have the copy that the Premier had. Even the Speaker did not have a copy. And we know that the Speaker had asked for a copy of his speech that was supposedly redacted in many ways. That's why the Premier was asked unceremoniously by the Speaker to sit down. So enough of the electioneering. We're in the middle of a by-election. We're having a black tie gala the PLP is having. If he, there's not much else to say to that.
It kind of took place just as I was arriving this morning. But
Sure.
You described that back and forth between Mr. Lister, the Speaker, and Mr. Byrd.
Sure.
It seemed that there had been some form of conversation about the ministerial statement that was delivered this morning ahead of it being delivered. What, if anything, do you know about that?
Yes, we on Thursdays we would get an update from the PLP whip, who would say, well, this is the things that we are going to do for the following day. We saw the title of the statement, and I immediately called the Speaker to ask, what is this? Is this a throne speech? What's going on? And with as much as he could give to me and say, he was working with it, he was not pleased, and that's all I could get from the Speaker at the time.
So at Thursday, all you had was the title of the ministerial
Yes.
statement.
It wasn't
Didn't
even the
lay
correct
eyes on
title.
it until this.
It wasn't even
Absolutely.
the title.
Absolutely. My biggest concern really is that the Premier proceeded within his speech, his so-called throne speech statement, to say that he had consulted with the governor, he had consulted with the Speaker, and he had consulted with the President of the Senate. A throne speech also includes another major player, and that is the opposition. Those of us who have been a part of that procedure know that when the government gives their throne speech, the opposition has the opportunity the following session to give a reply. The Premier at no point in time discussed with myself on his new policy going forward as to how he was going to do things. And certainly, as we were getting on our feet, we had been saying to the Speaker, listen, there has to be an opportunity of democracy here. We have to lay before the people of Bermuda two different policies that towards a particular subject matter on how we want to run the country, give the people of Bermuda that opportunity. Now, by him giving a statement, he has tied our hands, and we have no way within the parliamentary process of doing just that, giving a reply. And so that is a major problem. If he decides to change the policy, just let us know. Listen, let us know what you're thinking. We're not asking you to tell us what you're going to say, but at least give us the opportunity to understand what it is that you're attempting to do. And he never did that.
Maybe my final question, to play devil's advocate a little
Sure.
bit, what is it that differentiates a throne speech from a ministerial statement?
Absolutely. The length of time that we know that he was going to take to do it. What we do know is this, is that it is a very thin line, and I recognize that the speaker was in a position whereby he was trying to determine which of the two. My concern is that the Premier was getting up to give the same rhetoric that he did during his conference. So in delivering at his conference a throne speech, as to say, and telling the public, well, come to our conference and listen to it, he got a big backlash to that. And now he's attempting, because he got such backlash from his own members, outside of the opposition, from his own members, he's now attempting to bring the same speech in a redacted form to the House. So the intent is still the same, to deliver a throne speech, whether he redacts it or not. And that's what I was appealing to. Listen, if you're going to give a throne speech, then at least give us the opportunity to reply. And all we could do with this speech is ask questions. That is not replying.
Appreciate it.
Thank you very much, guys. Cheers.
Thanks, guys. I'll